Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Biblio Files, the AADL TV program where we spend about 5 minutes discussing one book topic. I'm Lucy, and I'm here, as usual, with Christopher and Amanda. And the book topic that we are going to discuss today is, what is your favorite hobby book? So, Amanda, I will start with you.
Hi, I would love to share one of my favorite hobby books. This is a book the library has in its collection. I also own it. I don't buy a lot of books. I bought more this past year, but this is one I bought. It is called Mending Matters. Mending Matters, Stitch, Patch, and Repair Your Favorite Denim and More by Katrina Robidoux. It is a slow fashion guide for a well-loved wardrobe. And the book has projects that you can do to mend and repair some of your clothing. On the cover, there are these wonderful blue jeans. A lot of her ideas in this book involve hand stitching using like a sashiko sort of technique. Her main thing in the book, she starts out by describing like what her techniques are, her methodology, or why she chose to do more with like slow fashion and mending and repairing what you have. It's about stitching and darning and not buying new just because something is ripped or torn. It's keeping what you have and taking care of it, or reinforcing seams and stitches and holes so that your things can last longer, and you can fix them if they're broken and not just like toss them in the landfill, which I really, really appreciate. I also love hand stitching. I do sashiko, just embroidery independently. It's just a beautiful book. I honestly haven't gone through and picked a specific thing to do in here, but it's just beautiful. The pictures are great. Her directions are great. She talks about some of the basic tools you'll need to work on some of these things. And what I like about it is it's not a project that has like, I guess it sort of does, has a beginning and an end, but it's just sort of like, hey, I've got jeans that have the hole in the knee torn out. What do I do? And she gives you some ideas on making patches and stitching, but also making them look cool and fashionable. So I really, really, really enjoyed the book. It's called Mending Matters. Christopher, what's one of your favorite hobby books?
Well, you might know I've got a lot of different hobbies and a lot of different interests. One of the enduring hobbies or interests that I've had in the past, 35 years is Russian history. I managed to find a book that combined that interest with a lot of other interests, and it's called The Apartment. It's a beautiful book by Alexandra Litvina. So it's a picture book. It has a kind of cutout or exploded view of the apartment. And I'll show that to you here, if you can see that. And then it's really a chronicle of one family and the apartment for 100 years. So it combines a kind of family history, a kind of whole saga of what happens to the family through 2 world wars, a revolution, the war in Afghanistan, perestroika, all these other changes, Yuri Gagarin in space, and it's wonderful. It almost feels like a Russian lit book because it is this family saga, and there's a family tree at the back. It's beautiful. There are also objects that reoccur from one page to the next. So it kind of combines that. I think we've talked about Wimmelbuch, the German Dutch style oversized books that have a lot of objects and no pictures. And so it combines elements of that, kind of like Where's Waldo? So it manages to combine lots and lots of things that I love in a picture book format. So that's The Apartment by Alexandra Litvina. Lucy?
That's such a cool book. I love the idea of like telling history through looking at one place. That's such an accessible way to kind of look at a big piece of history in a small view. So, and Amanda, I have Mending Matters right over here from the library right now because I have some sweaters that like I want to repair, and I the cover was so beautiful. So anyway, so The book that my favorite hobby book, this is a library copy. I do think I am at the point where I might be about to buy this book. It is called The Knitter's Life List, and it is by Gwen Steig. And so this book, it's really cool. It's basically like you don't know what you want to knit. You love to knit. Do you want to check off all these boxes? And so it's like the yarn life list, the sweaters life list, the socks life list. But these lists they're pages and pages long. So this is like a know-how list. And so you can't see the words, but it's basically like learn these techniques in knitting by knitting a baby hat, read about nail binding. So it's like every possible iteration of knitting something is included in this book for you to find a way to create if you want. You don't have to do it all. But I love the way that it is something that keeps teaching you, and also that you might have a craft, in this case knitting, but this is a reminder that like something that you love to do that you've been doing for a long time and you think you've got it down, but it's always kind of refreshing to find a new way to do what you love doing. So use a yarn you've never used, knit in a location that you've never knit in, repair something. There's all these different things that you can approach that deal with knitting in this case, that something I love, but it takes me on a little bit of a different journey than I might have gone. It's also great if you're stuck, if you're like, I want to knit something. Mm-hmm. I'm itching to knit, but I don't know what to knit, or I have this yarn. So I've just used this book in a lot of different ways, and I've had it out from the library definitely a lot of times. So I think it might be something that I'm going to purchase, but it's called The Knitter's Life List by Gwen Steig.
I really like I'm not a knitter, but I like the idea that you mentioned how the book is set up so that if you have an idea or like some sort of a material or piece or like tool that you want to use, it gives you ideas for how to use those in your projects, like using what you have to be creative with. That's really cool. And I can see like how you could adapt that to other things that are not knitting.
Yeah, I think it presents the idea that like you can get unstuck or learn something new in whatever it is that you love to do, whatever hobby or craft you enjoy. There's always going to be something more that you can teach yourself. So,
Lucy, is it a book of patterns or much more meta than that?
It doesn't actually have patterns, but it has some pages that tell you techniques, like things you might like, certain, like the Kitchener stitch in knitting is always kind of, people see that and they're like, oh, I don't want to do that pattern if that has that. So it'll explain something like that with pictures. This is a hard thing, but it's not that hard. All right, now you've learned that. Here's a list of where you could apply that. So you have to kind of seek your own patterns, but she also has suggestions. She'll be like, find a pattern from, and she'll name someone who has a blog, or every new chapter, like the list of hats is like meet, and it will list 2 or 3 people in the knitting community who then you can research on your own. So it's also sort of a book that creates a world of rabbit holes for you, because it's just fun to explore.
Because we all need more.
Yeah, we do. We all need to get lost a little bit more in that world. So those were our favorite hobby books, and we would love to hear from you. If you have a favorite book about a hobby that you're interested in, you can leave that comment below. Thank you for joining us at Biblio Files. We will see you next week when we will be discussing the weirdest or strangest book that we have read.